Okay, guys, what's up? So, I wanted to play the last and final portion of the interview. Former SEAL Team 6 member AJ Shipley. You'll find it very interesting by the end of. I mean, not only did this guy go through some horrific shit while being a SEAL, but his civilian transition was not easy whatsoever, and what he talks about is just absolutely mind-blowing. What had happened to him and his way of coping with things. And so I find this series of episodes that I've done hopefully very beneficial to those that have served our country, and I thank you guys for giving up your lives for our freedoms. You know, I know we all want to be manly, work hard, provide for our family. And at the same token, there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, you know what, I need some help. I'm fucked up in the head. I have these crazy thoughts. I need to do this. I want to do that. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of weakness whatsoever. Because if you saw one of your brothers out there on the field who's injured, not just gonna lay down and be like, oh, fucking, self-preservation, fuck that. No, you're gonna go and help them. So what's wrong with helping yourself in your time of need? Because you don't know how that affects your family, your marriage, your children. I wish to just see that the suicide rate, and I know we can't say suicide on YouTube, another word I use, the self-eliminate rate on, for veterans is extremely high. And I hope one day to see that lower. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and continue this interview. Extremely interesting, and I hope you guys, get something out of it. By the end, he gives a lot of links where you could donate for the families, the Gold Star members. Those are women who lost their husbands in war, in combat. Whenever somebody dies, the insurance doesn't kick in right away, but whenever one of them is killed, the government immediately stops all checks. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed. I really do. I think that's fucked up beyond belief, that here they're out there serving their nation, and they give their lives, and not only has the wife just gone through something extremely devastating, but now she's broke. She doesn't have money to provide for her and her children if they have kids, put gas in the car. And so I hope the government does something about that, because we expect and ask too much of our veterans, even though they get their deployment and get to come back home for a few months and then redeploy. I mean, we got to do something for them. So the donation information is all on his website. Two very credible organizations. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching this, and feel free to like and subscribe. Still trying to get my subscriber counter up. I do a plethora of videos. I enjoy making all types of videos, whether it's original videos that I make, whether it's reacting or reviewing, comedy, whatever it may be. Feel free to leave in the comments of a topic that you enjoy, and I'll just give you my take on it. And yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and finish this interview.
We got back on, we started doing like the TBI reporting, what's your name? And I was feeling fucking weird. The three guys who were on that porch were feeling very weird. And you couldn't explain it, because I've been knocked out a bunch with Fight Club and skateboarding. Like, I am no stranger to concussion. This is very different. I went into a med check and they shined the white light in my eyes, and I threw up. And then I started getting scared. I still can't hear shit. Both my ears are perfed. I've got a bunch of other wounds pre-existing that are nasty. I've got a nasty stomach infection, like an open wound that I had. We had to surgically super glue before we did it. So I had all kinds of shit I was battling anyway, and it kept getting worse. When we finally got back to base, it's 5 days later, And I remember laying in my bed with my sunglasses on, wanting to die. I didn't know what the fuck was going on with me. I couldn't make rhyme or reason. I couldn't get my thoughts together. I couldn't get anything. I couldn't be there for the debrief. I was fucking out of it. And I didn't know what was going on. And they drove me to a French hospital out in town, and they ran a CT scan. In the back of my skull, right back here, was jet black in my brain. And the doctor came back, and she's like, what is that? I was like, I don't know, you tell me. And she's like, I don't know how you're standing right now. She's like, that's a major blow to the back of your head. Nothing hit me in the back of the head. She's like, well, something did. I don't remember any of that. I remember seeing the MRI, and I remember just telling them, like, that's just overpressure, man. Like, that's just overpressure. And they said whatever they did, it got documented, you know. We finish all that and we fly home. I'm on the next flight home. It's the end of the deployment. That's the last thing to happen. We fly home, and I land, and I have a 6-month-old waiting for me. I land, I drive straight home, and there is a newborn laying in that crib. Be dad. And dude, the next 48 hours of my fucking life, I didn't even know what to say. I couldn't, everything started to go to shit. I couldn't remember, I couldn't remember my wife's name. I couldn't remember my daughter's name. I got lost driving to fucking work. You've been to Virginia Beach. I called my wife one time in the fucking Norfolk Scope parking lot. Crying my eyes out. I don't know where the fuck I'm at. Amnesia set in. I'd wake up in places. I'd go to drive to work on a Sunday, and I'd end up at like the farmer's market. I called Patsy. I was like, I don't know where the fuck I'm at. I couldn't remember anything. And I had no rhyme or reason. I couldn't say it to anybody, but everybody else was having the exact same fucking thing going on. And it was only getting worse. Every day it would get worse, and the headaches were so bad. The photophobia was so bad. I wore sunglasses for years. I did until we got it under control. I remember coming to one day. I was in the gym out in town, wife doing CrossFit or some shit, and I woke up. I'm flat on my back, and I'm looking up at her, and she's kneeling over me, and she is bawling her eyes out, like tears are falling on my face. And I look at her, and I was like, what's going on? She's like, what the fuck have you been? She's like, you've been laying there for 15 minutes. I don't remember going to the gym. I don't remember doing anything. I don't remember anything about that morning. I don't remember that night. I don't remember shit. Like my long-term memory, people, places, things, like it escapes me. It does. And it was getting real bad, and we had a heavy breaching trip coming up. And my boss at the time knew I was in a fucking jam. Like, he knew I was. He didn't know how bad, but he's like, I don't think you should go on this breaching trip, man. He's like, you're good. You're current. There's no reason to go down there and ring your bell any more than you need to. Just take some time off. Okay, and I didn't want to. And I end up going down to medical to fill out some kind of paperwork or something. I'm having a conversation with one of the docs there. And I don't know how I said it. I don't know what I said, but it was something to the effect of, I don't know if I'm gonna kill myself or kill my wife, but there is something going on with me, and you have to fucking stop me. And the next thing I remember is the command doc, the command psych, who's a fucking angel, and my boss, are sitting in a chair with their hands on my shoulder, giving me Valium, telling me it'll be okay. And then I go to NICO.
Yeah.
So my trip to NICO was not something I wanted. I was in a bad jam, and when I showed up there, I didn't know what was going on with me. I had no idea.
Well, before we get into NICO, I talked to your wife for maybe 45 minutes the other day, and she had some kind of intuition while that op was going on that you were in trouble. She said she just felt something, and sure as shit, she was right. So you got home. She said one of the first things she noticed was your dinner was right in front of you, and you didn't even realize it, and you're asking when the fuck are we gonna have dinner? She's like, dinner's right in front of you.
She took one. I'd pull up videos on her phone because I know she was sending them to people. I mean, there was a video specifically I was cutting steak, and it was like 6 minutes, just over and over the same piece, just cutting it. I'd go into these trances, and I remember it now, like going into a trance and telling myself to come out of it, and I couldn't. I'd forget to come out of it. I would. I'd lose track of time. I didn't know. I thought I was going fucking crazy. And then it was the whole CTE thing was coming on board, and it's like, yep, this is exactly what this shit is. Like, everything got super dark. Oh, fuck, man. I'd sit in my, I just wanted to die. I did. I wanted to fucking die, and I didn't know why. I had the picture perfect life. I had a badass wife, gorgeous kid, dream job. Fucking, my life was heaven, and all I wanted to do was die.
Yeah.
I didn't know why. I'd sit in my guest room with that fucking dog of mine, and I'd talk to him. I would. Like, that dog saved me more times than any fucking thing else, dude. I'd sit there and the obsession over the details are probably what saved me the most, because I'd think about putting Patsy through that. I'd think about the reality of shooting myself and the scene it would make in this house, the mess it would make, that she's gonna have to clean that up. What's my kid gonna find out? Or what are they gonna say when they find out? And I ended up just not doing it. But I wanted to. And then I started to turn into other things, like, I gotta get my rocks off somehow. Like, what's my outlet gonna be? Like, threading the needle. Like, that was the only thing that made me feel alive. Is the sketchier shit would go, the more I liked it. Man, that TBI shit gets away from you fast. And nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
Sit in those fucking rooms, and I know those dudes feel the exact same way I do, and they're not saying anything. And they never did. I think that started to drive a wedge because I needed it so bad. I needed someone to confirm that I wasn't going fucking crazy. And because of the teams, not wanting to show weakness, no one did. And I thought I was alone. Other people, they check in, they do this, they do that, but it didn't matter. Like, I'm not telling anybody I'm fucked up. I'm just wondering why no one else has anything wrong with them.
Yeah.
Like, none of this shit ever affects you? Nothing? Like, you're not human? No? Never get headaches? Nope. You ever feel weird after a full day of breaching? Nope. You ever piss blood? Nope. You ever forget where the fuck you're at? Nope. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am the only fucking one. That drove me way down the fucking rabbit hole. Because now I've spent my entire life to hit a fucking pinnacle, and I can't remember anything. It's all escaping me. Yeah, I mean, Patsy, she called the command. She called my boss, and she's like, you have no idea what the fuck is going on with him. She's like, he's gonna kill himself. She's like, he needs you guys right fucking now. We have to figure this out. And Nika was very new on the scene right then. So that was 2014. Went inpatient NICO for 30 days, and they did a whole workup on me and put me on all kinds of fancy prescriptions, and they helped. They did. I thought I was having seizures. I didn't know what a panic attack was. I didn't know what real anxiety was. I remember sitting in the chow hall, and I remember sweating into my food, and people looking at me, like sweating through my beard, because of so much sensory overload in that fucking cafeteria. Chopping, chewing, hitting the fork, banging, the dude in the back washing pots and pans, it all just consumed me. And I'd just sit there and I'd just start fucking sweating. Like, fuck, man, I gotta get the fuck out of here, get the fuck out of here. And I'd have to leave. And I tried to make it not a big deal, but it was a big deal because I was solo. Actually, I wasn't solo, just no one fucking tell me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went up to NICA, we did the full workup, got put on a bunch of different meds, probably 15 prescriptions. Got put on a stimulant, so Adderall, to kind of keep me focused, which helped. Cymbalta. We did Zoloft, We did everything. Prazosin at night to stop the dreams. We did beta blockers. We did everything. And basically ran that concoction along with tramadol and everything else, basically the duration. It wasn't until the very end when I got hurt one more time when I realized what that shit actually was. So.
Let's take a break there.
Shoot, I don't even skateboard, but if they look like that,
All
I
right,
just
so we're
went by
back from NICO. You got the prescriptions. Did they give you any insight as to what was going on with you medically?
Yeah, they went through the, full body, head to toe, every MRI, contrast. I mean, everything you could do to the human body, they ran tests for. Had a couple spots on the brain, but nothing crazy. But they also back it up with, we've had people come in here in wheelchairs pushing themselves around on straws with no spots in their brain. So they couldn't really make rhyme or reason. Just concussion, operator syndrome, a bunch of that kind of stuff. The TBI ocular stuff, so the overpressure messed up my right eye, so I can't really focus it. So they called it TBI-related ocular dysfunction. So I've got to wear glasses. Like if I really try to dial in a shot, it all goes to a haze. I can't do a super finite focus. So it makes shooting kind of weird. My depth perception's kind of off, but I'm used to it now. And then I had 5 surgeries I had to get. They wanted to do both shoulders, both hips, and my lower back. The neck was, they wanted to do a, fuck, I can't even remember. Some kind of surgery on my neck. And I did not want to do it. All the docs were like, hey, if you can get by, then push it off. Like, I didn't want to get surgery. I didn't want to miss a deployment. We were gearing back up. I mean, I was in that thing for 30 days. Like, I was going fucking crazy.
All this shit is happening to you, and you're worried about missing a fucking deployment?
That's the only fucking thing I cared. That's why I was so pissed. I was like, why can't I just go to Portsmouth right up the road and come to work every day? And I didn't realize what NICO was. It's to get away from the phone, decompress completely. And it was fucking rough, man. That I was not good with that shit. To be able to pull the phone away, because you're glued to it. You're waiting for that thing to ring to say to come to work all fucking day. And it becomes, my nightly routine, dude, I'd check that phone. Team guys exaggerate. This is no exaggeration. I bet you I checked that phone 50 times a day.
Damn.
To make sure my battery was charged. Was the charging cable plugged in right? Like all that different shit. Like I have a serious phobia with being late, like an unhealthy one. And the thought of missing a movement was not a fucking option. I wouldn't go on family vacations that involve flying or long distance travel. If we had a trip coming up, like, no, I can't miss work. I can't do it. So we get there and we're in NICO and we're doing the whole thing, and that facility was amazing. From the acupuncture to, I mean, everything they did there was amazing. And they fucking saved me. I was in a bad spot. And they see all kinds of people. That staff really bent over backward to me. And I think it's because they saw where I worked, they saw how young I was, and they saw how devastated I was, that I was potentially done. And they came in at the end of the 30 days. They diagnosed me with all kinds of crazy shit. I mean, everything. And they recommended that I get medically retired. He's like, hey, it's not gonna get better, dude. He's like, you need major surgery all over. And they almost got me. They almost got me. They pulled a guilt trip, and they were like, do you think you can perform your best like this? And I knew the answer was no, but my ego caught me. And I went, fucking outperform you. Give me these meds, and let me go see. And dude, I ran hard. I ran full tilt for the next 4 years, from 14 to 18, as hard as I could go. Never missed a day of work.
He's a badass, man.
It was the best time of my life.
What did your wife think? Did she want you to retire?
Yeah, because what nobody else saw is what I was like at home. I was fucking vile, man. I spit venom out of my mouth all day long. I was just fucking hateful. I hated everything. Anything that wasn't to do with work, I didn't want anything to do with it. You know, my daughter was a burden. Being married was a burden. Having a dog was a burden. You know, having to do taxes was a fucking burden. Like, why can't you just let me be like one of the 300 fucking Spartans and let me just do this? This is my profession. Can everybody just cater to me and walk around and fucking fan me? That's what I wanted. I did. Like, my ego consumed me, and anything that potentially could derail me or slow me down in any way was not an option. It just wasn't. I couldn't let it happen. And the only way to obsess over work, and I felt, and do it at the full commitment that I needed to, was to have no attachments. So I emotionally started to separate from my wife, from my kids. You know, I tried to play the game when I came home, but it wasn't. I was thinking about work the entire time. I didn't want to change diapers. I wanted a kid so fucking bad with her. And in 2013, I got one. And I was through the fucking roof, man. I've never been so happy my whole life. And I went overseas. She was, 2 months old when I got hurt. And when I came back, it ate me alive. And when I went to NICO, it got even worse. Now I'm separated. Now they're telling me there's something wrong with me. And it's not going to get better. Now I look at my family and I start to resent them, like, you fucking did this to me. If I wasn't thinking about being a fucking father, if I wasn't thinking about being a husband, it probably wouldn't have fucking happened to me. I started to blame shift on everybody. That's what I did. I threw my walls back up. I'm like, yep, we're gonna lean forward in this. I'm gonna give this thing everything I can, and I'm gonna ride this fucker all the way through. I never in a million years thought I'd get medically retired. Never. I'd never fucking let him. No. There's no fucking way. I'm too hurt, but I'm medicated. I'm fine. Like, I'm good. I was shooting Imitrex probably 5-6 times a week. Auto injectors for migraines. I was taking essentially a lethal dose of Maxalt for migraines. You're supposed to take 3 a week. I'd take 3 a day. I was in a fucking jam, man. When the sun would come up and crest, my world ended. When that sunlight hit my eyes, it was over.
Were you deploying with all this?
Yep. I wore sunglasses all the time, medicated. It got real bad one night. It was probably 10 o'clock at night. I walked into the kitchen, and I don't know why. I don't know what the fuck I was doing, but I hit the microwave, and the light came on and hit my eyes just right, and I fucking collapsed. I pissed myself, started dry heaving. I'm in the fetal position, just shaking. I was shaking so hard, and I didn't know why. I couldn't control it. It felt like I was gonna break my own hands. It was all I could do. It was like I was trying to pop my own head off by squeezing everything as tight as I could. And I hadn't had a migraine like that in a while because I stayed doped up all the time. I was constantly taking Maxalt and Imitrex and everything else, and I thought I had him at bay, and this fucking thing hit me, dude. And she was trying to call 911. I'm screaming at her. I'm calling her every name in the book. Don't you fucking dare. That was her big threat. She's like, I'm gonna call your troop chief. Don't you fucking dare. Don't you fucking dare. And she should have. I was in a bad spot, man. And everything on me hurt. So like you said, if I'd miss a dose of Tramadol, I felt everything I had. I'd go to the gym in the morning and I'd fake it, and I was fucking miserable. Like, I had never felt that much pain. I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia when I was
oh my God.
when I was up there. And for the ones that don't know, it's basically a made-up term. It's when you have agonizing pain and they can't tell you why, they label it fibromyalgia. But for me, it felt like I had shin splints on every ounce of my body. Like when you shook my hand, it felt like you were breaking my hands. My feet, when I would walk, I could feel it. It felt like my feet were splintering. It was terrible. Every step I took, I was just in agonizing fucking pain. So I just ate painkillers all day. And I masked it, and I trained, and I deployed, and I did every trip I could, anything to get me away from Virginia Beach to just escape reality. And it didn't pay off. I was hurt a lot worse than I really thought I was. I mean, I felt bad. I didn't realize it was only a matter of time before it all came apart. I'd go through these long bouts of depression, weeks on end. I wouldn't want to speak. I'd sit there, I wouldn't want to eat. I'd lose motivation. I wouldn't want to go work out, and then I'd start to make excuses. You know, when you lose focus on the why, you know, you don't have the targets that you want, you don't have funding, you don't have the leadership you want, you don't have this, you don't have that, and you lose focus on why you're actually there. Because none of that shit fucking matters. The enemy hopes you're not training. He hopes you don't have funding. He hopes you haven't seen the inside of the gym in 2 fucking weeks. He hopes you don't know where your guns are right now. That's what he's hoping. And I let it consume me. And I just started to hate everything. And then I found skydiving.
Did you start doing that recreational?
Yeah. I really started to obsess over it. Like that was kind of my thing when I was at the command anyway. I wanted to be a breacher. That's all I wanted to be. I fucking love breaching. And the team I rolled into had a bunch of badass breachers already. They don't need another one. They need a guy to run all the air stuff. So I went way down the jump rabbit hole. And the only bad thing about that is it's so far removed from what the teams are, because it's such a civilian-dominated sport, that I started to hang out with everybody who wasn't a team guy. I'd go out on these long trips to Arizona to support courses, and you know, I'd 400 or 500 jumps a year, and wanted to start competing, and that was so unlike me to do anything outside of work. The fact that I would go recreationally skydive, like that's what my wife said. She said, "What the fuck are you doing?" I was like, "I'm doing it for work. I'm doing it because they asked me. I don't need you to be a breacher. I need for you to be an air subject matter expert. I need for you to be the best jumper in the room." Done. If you had asked me to be a fucking dental tech, I'd be a tier 1 fucking dental tech. It didn't matter. If that's what you wanted me to do, that's what I'm gonna do. And I obsessed over it. I spent a lot of personal money and a shit ton of time out there jumping in wind tunnel, and got all my instructor certifications, and you know, throwing out tandems and everything else. But it started to remove me from the group. I started running a bunch of solo projects, or me or 1 or 2 guys. And we'd go out there and we'd just jump. We'd go do 100 jumps in a week. I mean, we jumped. And it really started to take a toll on the family life. Like, I was gone a lot. I can remember her sick as a fucking dog, like puking over the toilet, begging me not to go on this trip. And I looked at her, no sympathy. Like, gotta go. I didn't have to go. That was a made-up trip. That was a fun trip for me. You know, we'd have a work trip that started on Monday. I'd fly out the Friday before. And I'd get a whole weekend full of jumping with all my friends, and the work trip would start. And then I'd stay late. So I turned a 2-week trip into a 3-week trip.
Jeez.
So was it the fun you were after, or was it just getting the fuck out of...
It was getting the fuck out of Virginia Beach. It was something completely different that I didn't have to answer to anybody for. It was my own. Completely separate group of friends who didn't know me. They didn't give a shit about my background. Maybe they knew. They didn't ask. They didn't care about the politics. They didn't care about what happened overseas. They liked me for me, and they liked skydiving. And I used that as an outlet. But I really used it to just separate myself from my family. And I threw up another wall. Like, I had my Virginia Beach life, and I had my jump life. And I'm just running straight this way. And she hated it. I mean, she begged me. She begged me. Stop going. Stop jumping. Stop doing this. Stop doing that. And I wouldn't. I couldn't. I was so addicted to it. And it wasn't even the jumping itself. It was just escaping reality. When I'm flying around, when I'm jumping these super small parachutes, I'm doing whatever, I'm escaping reality. My reality is I am fucking miserable and I am waiting to die. And I'm just unhappy. I don't have any justification for it. I can't make rhyme or reason, but if I say anything, they're definitely gonna kick me out of here. So I'm gonna suffer in silence and I'm gonna run this fucking thing until the wheels fall off. That's what I did. I ran it all away.
What was the wake-up call? Was it the accident?
I went down to Florida, me and my shooting buddy, and a couple other guys. We were doing a civilian skydive trip. It's like a big camp. It's a certain type of free flying we were doing, and it was amazing, a great time. But I was so broken from everything else, things you just don't realize. So we're on the first day of the jump trip, and we're flying in a formation. It's called upright. Basically, you're standing and you're flying across the sky on 2 feet, flying that way. And you have to lean back with your arm as far as you can. You have to press down into the relative wind to get the throw to launch you forward. So it's understanding all the details and everything else. It's trick flying, but it's fun. You build a lot of speed. And I was so broken up top. I got the video, I'll show it to you. I leaned back as far as I could, and we're hauling ass, and all of a sudden, I flip over, and I feel a weird pop, and my chin locks to my shoulder. I'm in free fall, and I can't move my arm. It's pinned behind my back. I'm like, what the fuck? I roll over, and I start to track away to try to get away from the group. And we're probably at 7,000 feet, and we're taking it low. And we exited at 14,000 feet, so we're, a little over halfway through the skydive, but that's the dangerous part. It's when we have to break away so we don't open on top of each other. And I turn, I track away, and I go to pull, and I can't pull. My hand's in a knot. It's locked up, I can't deploy. And I jump a small parachute anyway, and I'm not a packet of peanuts. So I had to open up my reserve. And I open that thing up, and it's super small. And that's something you don't think about, having to land a small parachute with one hand. So I lift my arm up, and I unstow the toggle, and I loop it in here, and I'm flying super casual pattern on the way in. I come in with one hand, I land, I get up, and I've got a jumpsuit on, and my arm is paralyzed. Like it's hanging down to my hip. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but the only thing that kept coming up in my mind is they were concerned on taking Cymbalta, taking the tramadol, and 3 or 4 of the medications that I've been taking forever. And they're like, you have to stop taking that or you're gonna stroke out, man. Like you'll have a fucking stroke. I thought that's what it was. I thought I had a stroke mid-free fall. I mean, like when I came down, I was pinned like this. I couldn't do shit. I couldn't lift my arm, I couldn't do anything. They couldn't get my jumpsuit off. When they did, my humeral head was down to here.
Oh my God.
So what happened is I reached my arms back to fly and my arm dislocated through my armpit.
Oh my God.
So humeral head attached and it came through my armpit.
Fuck.
That's a very bad dislocation. It's very hard to reset, especially when a little bigger than it's probably like, bigger. And I landed on the ground, and I remember standing on my hand, trying to lift up to try to pop it. It still hadn't hit my mind that my shoulder's out of socket. I've never had one dislocate like that. I've had them in and out, but not like that. My teammate's there. He's like, dude, what the fuck? I'm like, I don't know what to do. We've got an ER a mile and a half down the road. I was like, I'm going. I jump in a rental car and I drive myself right to the ER. I'm still in my jumpsuit. They go up on the next lift. They continue jumping. I check myself into the ER. I tell them what happened. And they spend 2 hours trying to get this thing back in socket.
Oh my God.
Let me preface this. I pride myself on my pain tolerance. It's world class. I can take an extraordinary amount of pain. I can.
I can as well.
That shit, oh my God. That dude cranked on my shoulder. I was sweating. I was dry heaving. I wanted to fucking die. He was bad. And finally they gave me propofol, whatever it is, knocked me out, reset it. And they put me in a sling. He's like, hey, you gotta go back. I'm freaking out because I don't want to tell work what has happened. So now my little hamster wheel's going around. I'm like, I don't have to tell anybody about this. I'm like, we're good. I drive back out to the drop zone. I see all the instructors, all the guys. I'm like, what happened? I was like, fucking arm came out. I'm like, Jesus. And all the guys like, hey man, we'll refund you for the camp because you can't jump. The fuck are you talking about? I'm jumping. He's like, you can't jump. Your shoulder just came out of socket. I was like, I'm jumping. I'll take the rest of the day off. I'll be back tomorrow. We went out to like a food line or whatever and bought a bunch of KT tape and YouTubed it and KT taped my shoulder in place. Put on a quasi brace that we bought from, whatever. Pinned my shoulder in, just taped it. So all I could do was deploy and I could reach up and I could grab my toggles and I could steer it, which made landing very, very challenging because I jump a high performance parachute. So I really have to be able to control this thing. And I just let my ego get a hold of me. And I didn't give a fuck. I showed up the next morning. They did not want me to jump. We had a conversation and we settled on a wager. If you can do 10 pull-ups right now, I'll let you jump. And I jumped on that bar and did 10 pull-ups so fucking fast. And he went, go ahead. And I put my suit back on. I went up and did a jump very gingerly, not getting real dynamic. Did a second one, did a third one, did a fourth one. And on the fourth one, I got a little cocky. And I leaned into it a little bit too much on final, bringing the parachute, and it popped out of socket again. The exact same thing. Through the armpit, the exact same fucking way. And the instructor looked at me, because it's not common to fall on landing, not at that level. And they looked at me and gave me a weird look, and I was like, get any more fucking banana peels out here? Trying to, brush it off. And then I looked at him, I was like, hey man, I kind of tweaked my neck on that opening. I'm just gonna sit out the rest of the day. And I walked around that DZ for an hour faking it because I was so fucking embarrassed. And I was like, yeah, that's the thing, we go back to the hotel. I'll be back in an hour to pick you guys up. And I drove straight over to the ER, now in civilian clothes, had changed. And I walked in, the exact same doctor is working the exact same desk and looks at me and went, what can I do you for? I was like, I was putting on this t-shirt and my shoulder came out. We got to put it back in. And he looked at me and smiled and he reached out and grabbed a blade of grass out of my ear and went, getting dressed out in the field, are we? Come on. Went back, knocked me out, popped it back in place. And I didn't jump the rest of that trip. I couldn't. It was so bad. And I knew how bad it was. The amount of pain that was going through my body was uncommon and it couldn't be good. We get back to the command. I walk into rehab and I tell him, I was like, hey man, I got some serious shit going on. He's like, oh, we'll go in there. We've got great shoulder surgeons, super experienced. And we went in there and looked at that thing and he went, dude, this is gonna be the one. This is it. I'm like, whatever. We'll do a quick one. It wasn't a quick one. We went in and did that shoulder surgery. We did the Mumford. We cut out a section of my collarbone. We did the bicep tendinosis. So relocated my bicep tendon. We put in 2 anchors in the front, 5 in the back.
Oh my God. I
got a nasty infection. We found out that I'm allergic to the waterproof bandages they put on me. So I got folliculitis, almost like cellulitis, just gnarly infections all over me, dude, bad. And the rehab process after shoulder surgery is not fun. It's long, you can't rush it takes 6 months. And by the time I got done with that, the medical paperwork had already been pushed. He's like, you got to do the exact same thing to the left, and we've still got to do both your hips. We got to fuse your neck, we got to fuse your lower back. It's it, man. And I was in so much pain at that point when we got done with that shoulder surgery. Not throwing anybody under the bus, but I will. They forgot to do my nerve block when I got that shoulder surgery. So I went in, we do the whole thing, and I wake up in a recovery room, and that operation was supposed to be 2 hours, and I was in there almost 6. Long fucking surgery. A bunch of stuff in there, a bunch of bone fragments are floating around. Your shoulder dislocates and slams back in, it chips away the corners. Mm-hmm. I've got a couple 4mm pieces of bone floating around in there they can't get to.
4 millimeters?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So my humeral head, it just broke off big chunks of it. Now it's just free floating in there, just grinding everything out. So I wake up in this shoulder surgery, you got your arm pinned, you're in the sling, and I wake up and I'm overcome by it. If you would have had a pistol sitting on the thing, I would have shot myself. It's indescribable how bad that pain was. It was everything. It was reality. And that doctor walked over and he's like, how you feeling? I've never felt this much pain in my entire life. He's like, nerve block not help? Did you do one? His eyes get real big and he looks at me, he's like, I'll be right back. He leaves, comes back 3 minutes later with 2 other doctors. And he's like, hey, so we decided not to give you the nerve block now. We're going to give it to you post-surgery so it'll be more effective for you. Okay. And they freehanded this thing. Usually they do it under under like an X-ray or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't. They just drop this thing in. They hit me.
It's from the spine, right?
What's that?
It's from the spine, right?
They did it through my neck.
Through your neck?
Yeah, so he hits a nerve bundle just above your collarbone. It basically just paralyzes everything from here to here.
Okay.
So he misses it. And a couple minutes later, I remember sitting there and I'm doing touch and goes, and you're all fucked up from the anesthesia. And I remember leaning my head back, and my tongue was paralyzed, and it rolled in the back of my throat.
Oh my God.
And I essentially started to swallow my own tongue. And I remember throwing my head over the side and scooping my tongue out, and I couldn't breathe. I was gasping, and it was nothing. Trying to scream, I can't get anything out. There's no nurse there. It's after hours. I had a later surgery. This is probably 8 o'clock at night. I mean, everybody's gone at this point. Men manning at the hospital. And I remember I grabbed the little monitor, the EKG thing, and I knocked it on the ground. I remember this lady came running out of the back, and I'm holding my throat like this. And her eyes got as big as silver dollars. And I remember them shoving an O2 mask on me. And then I remember waking up later. So what had happened was they hit the wrong nerve bundle, and it paralyzed my throat, my voice box, my tongue, and my right lung. Man, I was just drifting off the...
Holy shit.
I just would have passed out. Would have been over. So the whole rehab process comes after that. But after that, because the pain was so bad, we go to pain management. And now I get on more meds. And now I'm on all kinds of weird shit now. It's like they're just stacking it on top of me over and over and over. And it's not getting better. It's only getting worse. To the point where I don't know what I'm going to do anymore. But I'm having some very hard conversations with Patsy and everybody else. Like, if this is what I have to live with daily, oh no. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. Like, I can't lift my arm. Like, just the whole rehab process was so fucking bad. And luckily, you know, we start the medical retirement thing, but it takes so long to actually get there.
What kind of conversations are you having? Are you talking suicidal?
Yeah.
Yeah? You're having conversations about suicide with your wife?
Uh-huh.
How many times did that happen? More than you can count?
Yeah. And it was one of those things, like I told her, I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on with me. Like, I sit here and I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. Kind of just everything from my childhood and everything through the teams and just everything just felt like it was hanging around my fucking neck, man. I couldn't do it anymore. I was fucking tired. I feel like that's the common theme with dudes when they hit that spot, is that's what they say. I'm just so fucking tired. I just don't want to do it anymore. Just, like, reality set in, like, that was it. I'm not coming back from that one. And we got through rehab. The med board had already started. We had hip surgery scheduled. We had my left shoulder scheduled. And it was going to be 3 years of surgery windows. I'm like, I can't fucking do this, man. That rehab was so bad. It took everything out of me. It was fucking miserable. The Navy SEAL Foundation stepped in, and they had a rehab program ran by an ex-team guy, actually from the command, Virginia High Performance. They chop you with a world-class strength conditioning coach. They cater your meals. You do 2 workouts a day. You do the float tank, massage, hyperbaric. You do everything. And it's basically a 4-week block. You can extend and do 8 weeks. So I did 8 weeks with those guys. And I came out of that, no shit, in the best shape of my entire life.
Really?
I felt like I don't need to be retired. Like, I'm good. I was high as a kite. I was on every med I was already on. But I looked the part. I looked fucking great. And I still wanted to die inside. But my ego It wouldn't let it go. Like, I could still do this. I can still do this. And then I couldn't. I just couldn't do it anymore. I ended up going to a neurobehavioral ward at Bethesda. So right across the street from NICO. It's called 7 East. And it is it's essentially a detox clinic. So in between all of that, I go back in to refill my prescriptions, and our physician's assistant, he was brand new, and he inputted all my stuff in and hit enter, and an error code popped up. And he went, I can't give you that. He's like, you can't take that and this. It's like, no. Well, that's a problem, because I've been taking that for a long time, and I fucking need it. And he had a very candid conversation with me, and he's like, no. What do we do now? Whole team came together, and they're like, we've got a med washout we want to do. You know, you're starting the med board right now. Let's get you off all these meds, and we'll figure out what your baseline really is, and we'll go from there. Okay. And somehow they suckered me into it, and I was not expecting that. I expected to go back to NICO, and it was not NICO. We walked in, and they took shoestrings, dental floss, they went through everything. You couldn't have anything. And there were a couple of SF guys in there, a couple of Rangers, a bunch of guys, like some pretty bad TBI shit. One of the guys, he was a fighter pilot, had an ejection ride, and it gave him Parkinson's.
Oh my God.
So to be able to watch people, how bad it can get, it really made me feel like a giant pussy. Like, you see how bad some of these dudes are. And I got there, and I never forget, man, she walked in, and this sweet little black lady, she looked at me and she goes, are you ready? And I went, yeah. Oh, child. Okay. She reached in, grabbed all my meds, and she's like, not anymore. And she locked me in that room. I bet you I was in there 7 days. I didn't really leave that room for 7 days. I laid in a fetal position, and I detoxed off everything I had been on. And it was the worst thing that's ever fucking happened to me. I remember pissing in the bed, throwing up. I mean, everything. You're talking about the spirit world, man. Like, being alone in isolation, no cell phone, no nothing. It consumed me. I didn't have skydiving. I didn't have the team. I didn't have my wife. I didn't have anything. I was ate up, dude. I was ate the fuck up. It was bad. And around the 7-10 day mark, I kind of came out of the haze, and I walked out for one of the first times and sat down with the group and had breakfast, and I was sober for the first time, and I was in agonizing pain. Like, oh my God, this is normal. This is reality right here. This is where I'm at. And we slowly started to input a couple meds. They left me on a couple things, just no painkillers. I couldn't do it anymore. From the NSAID use over the years, I've got like stomach ulcers, so if I take an 800 milligram Motrin, I piss blood, like weird stuff. So had to come off all the NSAIDs, and the only thing they left me with was Cymbalta and Adderall. Which, hindsight being 2020, I probably should have came off those. But at the time I couldn't even fathom it. My anxiety was so bad, my depression was so bad, and those pills were the only thing that kept me sane. And I say sane relatively. I was in a bad spot. The Patsy came up to see me in the hospital, drove up there, and you think it would have gotten better, and it didn't. So now we've got 2 kids, got a brand newborn, and I'm just in a bag of shit. So I come back from that and essentially got Mila, my youngest, who's now my therapy baby. I'm just laying in the bed, just feeling sorry for myself. I don't really know where I'm going from here, but I know my career is over. I know I'm miserable. I know I really want to take a bunch of pills to stop feeling like this, but I can't. And I don't know what I'm going to do. They introduced art therapy. It's kind of where the whole Tribescape thing started to go. It was a spillover from NICO. I started art therapy at NICO, and then the whole staff knew me, and they all remembered me. So when they heard I was next door, they opened up a facility, and I could go over there as much as I wanted to. They let me do the dog program, so I got to hang out with puppies all day, therapy dogs, and do all that. And the Red Cross walked in one day. She's like, "What can I bring you? How about a blank skateboard deck and some paintbrushes?" She went, "I'll make that happen." And she wasn't supposed to. You're not supposed to leave that place, and she snuck me out. She walked me downstairs and put me in her car and drove me out downtown Bethesda to a skateboard shop and bought me a blank skateboard. With her own fucking money. Snuck me out, totally could have got in trouble, and brought me back. And she's like, "If anybody asks, it just showed up here." "Yes, ma'am." And I made my first board. Big paper mache thing with a bunch of fucking hands coming out of it. Yeah, just, you know the whole mask concept you do?
Yeah.
Neither. It was essentially that, but I did it on a skateboard. And I just dumped everything I had in me on that board. And I felt better. I had an SF guy who was going through a dark spot, a real bad spot. Same thing, his career, he was not ready to go. Had him do the same thing. Like, just try it. Just paint this whole thing white. Paint the whole fucking thing black. Now do this, now do that. Started to help, conversations started to go, and we got to relive experiences, and, you know, that art therapy shit, it helped. We were in that thing for 31 consecutive days, inpatient, detoxing off meds, having to talk to all kinds of therapists about your feelings, and pain management specialist. And the big thing I got out of it, I was able to override pain so well that I couldn't tell if I was hurt or if I was injured. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. Everything felt the same. If I stub my big toe, or if you break my leg, it all felt the same. I didn't care. I mean, we'd go in there for some of these things, and I'd have these long conversations with the doc, and they'd ask, and they wanted to know tips and tricks on how I get over this. And I talk about things I do mentally to try to flush out some of the pain I was feeling. You know, I was doing breathing drills way before it was a cool thing to do, and I'd imagine, like, I'd go deep thought concentration. I'd paint away pain. I just spread loaded throughout my entire body, so it wasn't isolated in one spot, and I became successful at it. But it doesn't last forever.
No.
Yeah.
It was so bad when I came out of that fucking place.
So that's how Tribescapes was born. Art therapy.
Yeah, man. Like, I came out of there, and, you know, you're getting ready to retire, the reality that thing's gonna happen, and you don't know what you're gonna do. Am I gonna contract? Like, what is it?
Did you know you were retiring at this point?
I knew, yeah. The med board had already started. We've crested into 2019 now. I'm still jumping a little bit from what I can. I'm contracting, working some courses in my off time, just maintaining currency, all that. And then that's when we get to Tribescapes, and like, I actually made it a thing. Like, brought in Cole, and we had a shop, and it was my little therapeutic outlet. Didn't make any money, but it kept me sane.
Was Cole still in at this point?
Yeah, he was still in.
Okay.
Yep, he transitioned over. He was doing like a training position, but his med board was about to start. He was banged up. He's had, you know, multiple surgeries. He's chewed up, and that's when I got into fracture burning. It's like I had to replace something, some sort of danger element, with something else. So the skydiving I couldn't do right now. I'm going to the med board. If I got hurt again, they are definitely going to fry me. I just have to sit back here, and I just have to. When you go through that, they take all your specialty pays away. So you used to make an X amount, chop that in half, and that's what they maintain you at. And that process can last as long as they need it to. And I had a lot of injuries. My medical record's 2 volumes.
They take your fucking pays away?
The day you start it. Every specialty pay goes away. Sometimes, you know, I've heard rumors guys having to pay back re-enlistment bonuses. All kinds of shit, man. Like, it's bad, but they hold you to that. So now the lifestyle you've been accustomed to living, you can't afford to live that anymore. So now what do? Just get depressed. You can't get a job. They won't let you have outside employment, so what do?
Jesus Christ.
Just miserable. You're just waiting to finally retire. If they would have given me the option just to leave, I just would have left. I was so over it by then. I was fucking hateful, dude. I didn't want to accept that was actually happening to me. And then, you know, I had to kind of close out that chapter and accept it, like, this is what is happening. And I finally got my retirement date. The med board is over. It's probably May or June. There's an invite for the world record for a skydiving thing. And I went out there and I did my training jumps and I got picked up and I got a slot, invitee for the world record. It's going to be held in Chicago that year, and it was like, that was the fucking best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm so excited. Came back home and, you know, got zapped with the voltage.
This is
kind of reset
fucked
everything.
up story right here.
So at that point when that had happened, I had been through NICO, done 4 more deployments, been through 7 East, came off all the meds except Cymbalta and Adderall. Now I've got the world record thing coming up. Super excited. Basically leaning in heavy on tribe skates. Just doing that all day long, just trying to keep myself sane. I'm in the best shape of my life with VHP. I'm training every day, and I feel like $1 million. Like, I'm finally starting to come out of it, at least on the surface. Things were still rocky with the family. I was still, any moment I could to separate myself, I did. I mean, I do it now, just out of habit, but I'd be up at 5 a.m. every morning. There's no reason. I don't answer to anybody. And I'd go sand skateboards out in a fucking empty parking lot at 5 a.m. just to be by myself. I didn't want anybody there with me. I didn't know what I was going to do, man, but I knew it wasn't anything positive.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, let's move into Father's Day.
2019.
Yep.
So, I started tribe skates. Started doing fracture burning. We were laying graphics, doing normal stuff, and fracture burning was kind of introduced to me. So you take a microwave transformer, you pull it out and you hook it up to jumper cables, and run a lead out to 110. There's no real safety measure. There wasn't on that machine. So I ran an extension cord out of my house to an octopus outlet. Take said machine, plug into said octopus outlet, and then hit the button. Hit the button, unplug it. Now there's no power going to it. The unit's good. I've been doing it for months. Burned hundreds of boards at this point. I've got my chi down. I've got my whole system down, and it's therapeutic because it's fucking dangerous. Like you gotta be locked on. So I'm in super good shape. It's Father's Day. I am burning paddles for an EOD unit. It's about to retire, so they're giveaway paddles. I fracture burn them now, and they do a bunch of cool stuff with them. And a buddy calls me and he's like, hey, I've got a couple more, can I drop them off? And I've been out there since 6 a.m. Like, send it. Fast forward, I burned probably 10 boards that morning. And he shows up and they're not sanded. They've got lacquer all over them. I've still got a bunch more boards I gotta do, and you have to sand off every ounce of that lacquer or it won't conduct. It just won't do it. You gotta spray electrolyte solution on it, hit it with the voltage. So he is, I'm fracture burning boards. I stop, I take a break. He's plugged into the octopus outlet with a sander, sanding them down. In the confusion, the sander gets unplugged, my machine gets plugged, and the switch gets turned on.
Shit.
So I've got sawhorses set up. I'm sanding down boards with a bristle brush, knocking all the ash off. I'm spraying it down with a hose, so the whole backyard is covered in water. I'm in a tank top and board shorts, no shoes on, doing my thing. I remember it like it was yesterday. We're in front of my bay window, and it's probably from here to there. I mean, it's close. We're standing essentially on the back porch. Both my kids are there. They're watching the iPad or watching cartoons, eating breakfast. It's probably 8 a.m. And the old lady knocks on the window. She gives me one of these, like, it's fucking Father's Day, let's go. Trying to go have a family breakfast and do the whole thing. I'm like, last burn. Last burn. And I was like, all right, man, let's knock out this last one. And I grabbed those leads and I readjusted my hands. And if you're true north, that's where he was. I was about in this fashion. And when I grabbed those leads, it snapped me and spun me towards him. And every muscle in my body contracted. And I can remember my head fighting the urge. It wanted to slam back and touch my own spine. And I remember fighting it as hard as I could. I can remember my teeth heating up. And it felt like there was a copper spool. I could taste copper in the roof of my mouth fucking spinning. We made eye contact. I remember him screaming, fuck, fuck, oh no, 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 fuck. And the contraction got so fucking hard, I ended up taking a step back at some point and I landed in a puddle of water. But when I did that, I heard a loud pop, boom, and it was my collarbone shattering.
Oh my God.
And if you listen to Patsy, I leveled out in the air and I shot across the yard, still holding on to these things.
Holy shit.
I remember hitting the ground and skipping and having this thing. It felt like my entire body was being burned alive. It was intense and it was static, but it was static you could feel. Like the static on a TV, like everything went to that, and it was the static sound was inside of your fucking brain. Just and he unplugged me and everything went black. And I don't know how long I was out for, I don't remember. But I remember opening my eyes and he was in my face. And I remember exhaling and smoke coming out. I remember looking down at my hands and I had a burn through my palm, had one coming out of my finger. Shot came out of my head, some arc spots out of my thigh, had one come out next to my ass. And I remember laying there and he looked at me and he goes, "Do you know where you are?" I said, "On the ground." And he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not okay." I was like, my collarbone's broken and my left shoulder's out of socket for sure. And he kind of rocked me up forward and I had a big mouth of Copenhagen in and I bit through my tongue. So you can imagine what that feels like. I just kind of opened my mouth and just let this shit pour out of me. It was just a steady pool of blood. I didn't know how bad it was, but I knew it was bad. My wife's freaking the fuck out. The kids are freaking the fuck out. He's freaking the fuck out. Rightfully so. I told him, I do pretty good at keeping my composure in situations like that. And I was like, "We're good." I looked at Patsy and I was like, "I'm driving myself to the hospital. I'll go get checked out, go eat breakfast. I'm not ruining Father's Day." And that was the stupidest thing that's ever left my mouth. You're gonna drive yourself to the hospital now after this? And I remember I stood up, they were trying to find me shoes, trying to find a hat and trying to find my wallet. I live maybe 2 miles from like a level 3 trauma center. And he's gonna drive me there. My wife is gonna call her mother to come over and watch my kids and they're gonna meet me there. They've already called Cole, they've called everybody in the shop to let everybody know what's happened. I stood up and I said, "All right, I'm walking to the truck," and I turned and I got to the gate and it's probably maybe 40 feet to my truck. And I took a step and everything went. Took another step. And it reminded me, in the moment I thought about it, you remember Kill Bill? You remember the 5-finger death punch?
Yeah.
Take 5 steps, on the 5th one you die? Exactly like that. I got to 4 and I was fucking right here. I was a fucking cyclops, I couldn't see shit. And I was scared to fucking death. I could feel my heart rate slowing down, like I could feel it. I mean, you think it'd be blowing through my chest, it wasn't. I could feel it, and I didn't feel right. I felt very strange. And I took one more step and everything went jet black. It's fucking totally blind. And I'm just on the side of my house. I can't feel anything, I can't put my arms out because everything is broken. So I'm hoping that someone's going to come save me. And I can't see a fucking thing, nothing. And I start to breathe, I start to hyperventilate, try to flood myself with oxygen. And I forced it. I opened my eyes as wide as I could and I started to deep breathe until light started to come back in. And I felt a hand on my shoulder, it was him, and he guided me to the truck. And by the time I got there, my vision had came back, but it wasn't normal vision. It was like superhuman vision. It was the brightest colors I've ever seen in my whole life. It was like I could see, like Superman. I saw everything, I felt everything. I've never been so in tune with my body, ever. I could feel everything. We got in the truck and we drove to the hospital and we hit every pothole on the way. So my collarbone's in like 30 pieces. It's just kind of gravel, just moving around. My scapula's blown out. And every bump we hit, it felt like a shard was going to go into my lung. I didn't know how bad it was at the time, but I had a pretty good fucking idea. And we walked back there, walked in, told him exactly what had happened. We don't know the voltage, I don't know the ampage, I don't know anything, except that everything I've ever read is no one survives this shit. So I should have been dead. They brought me back on the table, they stripped me down. They're going through everything. They shoot the x-rays, they see the collarbone shattered, they see the scapula, they see everything else, and this doctor comes back. And he tells me, he's like, hey man, what do you do? And I told him. He's like, here's the issue, is with electrocution injuries, your body starts to produce some kind of enzyme, like, I'll fuck up the name, so I'm not gonna try. But he goes, if that number hits, we'll call it 10. If it hits 10, your whole body's gonna turn into essentially like rhabdo. Muscles are gonna liquefy and I have to start chopping shit out of you. I'm a lot bigger then than I was now, or than I am now. And he goes, I gotta start cutting out big things, dude. He's like, pecs gotta go, lats gotta go, glutes, thighs, hamstrings, we gotta cut it out of you. Because if not, it turns to mush, it turns septic, and you'll fucking die. He's like, so when this thing goes, we gotta go. So I'm imagining now, I'm laying in a hospital bed, and this dude's gonna walk around the corner with a fucking piece of paper and start cutting pieces off of me.
So it's just your tissue, it's dead tissue that's rotting.
Yeah, essentially like,
becomes toxic.
There's so much trauma all the way through, your body produces natural enzyme that basically turns shit septic. And he's like, that's what happens with rhabdo, like muscles liquefy or whatever. And he was concerned about it. And they did an ambulance ride all the way up to the burn unit, put me in there, ran every test they could, all the x-rays, stayed in there for a couple days. And that dude came back in and he goes, I don't know what the fuck is going on with you. He's like, everybody on earth produces this enzyme, everybody. If at 10, we've got to start cutting shit out, everybody sets at a 5. He goes, not only are you not at a 5, he goes, I can't find a trace of it in your whole fucking body. He goes, it's a medical fucking mystery. Why you're alive, I don't know. There were a bunch of theories about because I was holding on to both leads, kind of connected a circuit, my muscles just contracted until I blew shit out. And if he wouldn't have unplugged me, I just would have stayed like that and cooked. Another second longer. They were talking about, it's kind of like doing a defib on somebody. He's like, we don't know what your heart was doing. If he would have unplugged it, 0.25 seconds pre or post, maybe you would have flatlined and died. We don't know. He's like, because no one survives it, so we can't ever get test data for it. So I remember laying in the hospital. This is right after it happened, and I was supposed to work a jump course the following day. This happened on a Sunday. I'm supposed to work on Monday. And I remember calling the people I was working for at Skydive Suffolk, and I was crying. I was like, I am so sorry. Like, I can't believe I did this to you. It's like, I'm going to be there. I'll be there tomorrow at 07. I was like, I just don't think I'll be able to jump. And that fucking doctor looked over me, and he's like, you ain't going any fucking way. Just like that. Patsy jumped my ass, and I was like, Patsy, like, I'm just going to go down there. I'm in slings. I'm not doing any of this shit. And he's like, you could fucking die. Just like that. Hand the phone over, Patsy talked to her, and basically, like, he's not gonna make this trip. And I didn't want to hear that. And then I instantly asked him, like, well, I've got the world record coming up in 4 weeks. And he looked at me and he's like, your days are done, dude. You're not fucking jumping. He's like, you're gonna need major reconstructive surgery. And I had just went through it. Like, I had just gotten done.
Yeah.
Like, I just went through a year-long rehab process. Like, again? What the fuck, man? Like, you talking about driving a dude in a hole. Like, not again, man. Not a fucking again. And the things you don't think about, like, putting on socks. I couldn't put on fucking socks. I couldn't wipe my own ass. I couldn't bathe myself. I couldn't do shit. I could do nothing. I was worthless for months. I mean, I've got 2 plates and 27 screws from here to here. Like, it's over. My collarbone doesn't hinge on my sternum right. Like, this scapula thing, when that thing blew out, that was an injury that I never respected before. You hear about people breaking shoulder blades and scapulas, you're like, that's a terrible injury. It's terrible. When it blew out of my hand, it kind of fused my hand. So when people would shake it, it blew a hole through and hit the nerve bundle and hit the tendon. So anytime you would move my thumb, it felt like you were ripping my thumb off. I couldn't draw a pistol. Holding a carbine was miserable, and I had to basically just deal with that.
And you were going to contract as well when you retired, correct?
Yeah, I was supposed to go in September, December.
So that was out the window now.
Oh, there's no way. Yeah, with the rehab it took, there's no way. Just had to keep pushing that date back further and further. Try to lean in heavy on tribe skates, but now I'm hurt. Now what do I do? Like, now what do I do? Went back out at 6 a.m., 5 days later, and I finished fracture burning all this fucking skateboards, what I did.
Yeah.
My wife woke up, and you have never seen a look like that. Dude, she stood on that back porch and looked at me, and if looks could kill, I'd be fucking dead. Called me everything she could. Selfish motherfucker.
Yeah.
And she was right. But I told her, I was like, it's like skydiving. You have a cutaway, you have to get back on the next load and go back up. You're gonna build it up too much in your head. And I was like, it's a freak accident. I'm lucky enough to be alive, and if I don't do it right now, it's like, this thing will define me right now. I was like, this isn't who I am. I can't let this fucking thing beat me. I have to do it again. And I think she understood. And we obviously have a different system now, and it's very controlled now. I don't let anybody do it around me. We cut that out of it. But that rehab coming back, the very next day we started. I called Vernon Griffith, my trainer, and we started the very next day with a 2-pound dumbbell. Doing the whole thing over again. And it was miserable.
Damn. And you started GBRS group.
So we had Tribe Skates, and then in 2019, right after that, we started GBRS. So that happened I retired in August. That happened in, when's Father's Day? June?
June 19th.
Yep. We started that in September, GBRS. It's like full steam ahead. We got to go. I just focused on rehab every day. Hired a full-time trainer and just focused on rehab, trying to get back. It's not really what happened. I separated myself from everything. I used the skateboard shit as a coping mechanism. It was really just an excuse. I had to replace my love for the teams, my love for jumping, and my love for being away from my family. I had to give myself something else. And it was the worst thing I ever fucking did, man.